Hello and welcome to this tutorial on where we'll be creating a simple dice roller application. We're going to create this in different stages so that you will learn a few skills to help you with whatever project you're trying to create. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is we are going to create a button, and that button will generate a random number between 1 and 6 because that is a dice roller. Okay, that's the numbers that appears on the dice. Okay, so this is actually very simple to do. It's not a hard project at all. The first thing we are going to do is in our activity main.xml, we are going to add a button and a text view, which is going to generate our random number. Okay. There are two ways this can be done. I'm gonna go for a more of a, you know, I do it and show you in several ways of how you can actually accomplish this. So the first thing we're gonna do is inside in our activity XML, I'm just gonna drag a button onto the screen. And then in my code, I'm just going to change a few things. So I'm going to use a linear layout. And then in my text view, I'm going to give it an ID of TXT display. And then for our button, we are just going to call it button roll. Okay. This is and then in my linear layout, I'm just going to add an Android orientation of vertical. That is basically this part of it done. All we have done is just added a TXT display to our text view. And now button, we've just called it a button roll. Then in our main activity, I am just going to call my create my button. So val btn, obviously I'm going to view bind it, which is I'm going to have a reference to the button roll in my XML. Find view by ID, r.id. Sorry, this is button, it's supposed to be button, r.id.button row. Now, there are several ways you can actually view bind something. Let me check why it's giving me an error. That's not declare button called row. Let's check our activity main. Okay, let's just copy the button and just bring it here. Sometimes you may get this issue where you are wondering what's going on. Is everything working? Why is everything not working? Sometimes it could just be that your Android Studio have not caught up with what you're doing. So you can just look for you see how it's come back. It's just that it was catching up. So sometimes your XML file and your main activity file has not yet synced in with each other. So usually what you can do is you can click on build and then you can click on make project, and that would help you with the development of what you're doing. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to also find my text view. I mean, this is one way of doing it. So let's say button row. Another way of finding your text view could be var, for example, let's say in my text view, txt display. I can just do a colon. I can just do a text view equals find view by ID r.id dot txt display. So that's also another way of how you can actually view by your well, have reference to your XML project. And then once we've done this, this is us halfway there. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to do button roll dot set on click listener, which is where attaching our event to our button. So when we click on it, we're saying, hey, something should happen. Now at this stage, you can either choose to create a random number in a different function, or you can create it here. For the purpose of this, I'm just gonna, go straight forward with it. I'm just gonna create a random number, generate a random number between 1 and 6. So val random number equals random, because Kotlin has its own random number. So if you click on random dots, it comes with a next int, and you have to choose the numbers that is going to appear between the random numbers. So in my case, I'm going to need between 1 and 7. So 1, 7. So it will generate me, let's say 1 and 6, for example, because that's the numbers I'm going to have to need. I'm going to need. Um, and then what I can do now is I can do txt display dot, right? Our random, what did we call it? Do we call it random number? Yep, random number. Actually, txt display dot text equals, right? And then we can do our random number dot to string, because it's going to generate a random number with an integer, but we can't directly put an integer in a text view. So we have to convert it into a string. So then we do random number dot to string. Okay. Now, once we've done this, we are actually halfway there. And we can test this out by selecting an Android emulator. If I click on play, for example, I already had one running, but I'm just going to click on play to run it again. Um, and then you should see us with this here. So if we click on the button, it generates a number of 3 for me, generates a number 5 for me, generates a number 3 again, generates a number 1 for me. So that is basically a simple way of creating a button that generates a random number.